and welcome. This is the Tiffany's Fitness Podcast, a podcast where I talk to coaches, athletes, and strength enthusiasts about strength, coaching, life balance, and more. My name is Tiffany, and today's guest is Jared Rohrer. You might know him on TikTok and Instagram as Killer Cadogan. He is an awesome trainer. He's been in the strength and fitness industry for almost 20 years at this point, and we talk about a wide variety of topics from rugby to Quidditch to accessibility and training. So it's a really good listen. So enjoy the episode and I'll check back in with you at the end. So it's like really, there's so many different types of strength training that they're just like, and people get so stressed out looking at all of them. And there's so much like dogma and people are like, this is the way you're supposed to do it. And I hate that. Like my style of strength training has changed. And I know so many people like your training evolves over time and with your goals. And I think that there needs to be some sort of place where people can like be interested and hear about all the things, because I mean, who really knows about kettlebell juggling or steel mace or kettlebell sport or any of the other things that people do? Those are my niches, obviously. But
I dig that because, like, you know, I'm interested in the very same way. Like, I tell when I talk to clients, I'm like, look, what we do in the session, I try to make cool and fun. So it's fun for you. But what we're doing is prepping you to suck the marrow out of life. Like,
yeah.
fairly recently, I had a client a couple months ago go to, like, I think it was Iceland, and she took time out to get on her satellite phone and call me and be like, I'm hiking on an iceberg because of you. And I'm like, no, it's not because of me. It's because of you.
Yeah, I love that. That's like my like we're not training like, I mean, I obviously like some of my training is training to get stupid strong with very specific lifts, but like it's also training so like my life is better. I had a client send me a picture from her first wedding dance where she picked up her wife and like was able to pick up her wife and spin her 3 times. And I was like, that's so cool. Like that was like I like teared up getting that message. I was like, that's the sort of crap I want to like help people get good at.
That's the stuff you want to see.
Yeah, like that's the coolest thing. And I love like helping like or like getting those like breakthroughs with people when because I work with a lot of beginners into like sport and things, and like those like breakthrough moments when people like finally like figure out that technique is the coolest moment. Yeah. It's like you're like, oh, you got it now, and then they just can like do it, and it's like they don't have to think about it so much. And like I love getting to be a part of those moments for people.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So how long have you been coaching for? Like, tell me your strength training, your strength story.
Okay, so
I don't know anything.
that's cool. I guess I get to tell the story. So I've been training for 13 years. I've been in the fitness industry for almost 20. So about almost 20 years ago now, I was 150 pounds overweight. I was working at a retail job that I hated, and I just out of nowhere decided to quit. Like I was like, I went in, they offered me a promotion, and I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta go. I quit. I took a job. My back was messed up. I had like severe back problems. My back was messed up. I took a job working for a chiropractor while I figured out my next steps. Started working out at a gym. And the moment I decided I wanted to become a personal trainer was fairly early on. I was in the gym. Somebody asked me for help, and I'm like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I can show them how to use this. Like, it was the stupid like circuit that like people like, you know, take through at the very beginning. But I knew what I was doing, and I'm like, it felt good to help somebody, you know, figure that out. And then what I did was, like I said, I've been in the industry almost 20 years. After that, I met a woman. I moved closer to her. And I moved from upstate New York to New Jersey, and I took a job working for a gym as a membership person. And in that time that I worked as a membership person, like 5 or 6 years, I watched trainers train, and I watched how they did things. And I obviously trained, and I lost all the weight and everything like that. And one day I just was like, I'm ready to turn trainer. So in, you know, the fashion, I wasn't very happy with the gym that I was at. I took another job with a different gym, showed up at 6 o'clock Monday morning on the day they showed me, and that was it. in that first gym, it was like sink or swim. They didn't pay you unless you book sessions. So I had to get really good really fast. This is in New York City. And I'd met my wife by then. Like we had met by then. Um, and the rest is history. I've been training ever since. And, like I've done so many amazing things because, fitness is my business, I've run an ultra marathon, I've,
Wow.
yeah, I do not recommend that. Like,
You don't have to convince me. I will not be running any ultra marathons.
I'll be fair. Not be, I would do it again, but it would have to be not the one that I did the first time. And I did like, this is a story.
Tell me. This is what we're here for.
So I do you know about Chris McDougall in the book Born to Run?
I think so. That sounds very familiar.
It
I
was
have
it,
not read it, obviously.
it came out at the height of the barefoot running craze. And
Mm.
this guy wrote this book. He was dealing with like tons of injuries and this, that, and the other thing. And he was researching ways on where he could run and not deal with like all these injuries. And he found out about these tribes in South America who that's how they could get around. They just run everywhere. And he meets some guy, and the guy comes up with this idea to have this race between this tribe of people who run everywhere because of whatever, and the best ultramarathon runners in the world at that particular point in time. So I read the book because it was just an interesting book to read, and I was running more actively back then. Like by then, I'd run a half marathon, I'd run a Ragnar relay, and all this other stuff. And one day, out of nowhere, I find out he's doing a run in New York City. So I go out to the run. It's like he was running from Harlem to Brooklyn to a book signing, to do a book signing. So I get there, I show up. Everybody but me is essentially barefoot. Some people are in Vibrams or whatever. I meet another one of my favorite authors randomly at the book signing. And because I met him that day, I ended up in his third book about being as fit as possible. I get a one sentence mention in the book. Wasn't anything
Well, I'll
grand.
take that.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. But we did the run, and that day, let me go back to where the ultramarathon thing happened. So that's the setting what I was doing that day. Before I go out for the run, I'm sitting at work and I see that the Knickerbocker 60K is happening. And I decided to sign up for it because I was going to run with this guy, and I just read the book and I was full of energy. Bad move. Bad move. The problem with it was it was the same 4 mile loop that everybody in New York City runs to prepare for other races 9 times.
Oh.
And it was boring. And on top of that, my body was destroyed from playing in the Quidditch World Cup the week before. So it was like I was hurting, I was bored, my legs were burning. I had run for 8 hours straight in the most boring loop ever. So like if I were ever to run an ultramarathon again, it would have to be something where the scenery changes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like 2 or 3 laps of like a big giant loop instead of one tiny loop. Also, I would like to acknowledge the Quidditch World Championship. Just want to acknowledge that that phrasing. I did a little bit of Quidditch in college.
Where'd you go?
At Humboldt, but it was like we just like made like our own little Humboldt State's like Northern California. It was like there was like 10 of us, and it was just like a bunch of dweebs. I continue to be a dweeb, but
it starts every single.
We didn't really like play any real games, but we did have a little team, and we would run around.
Started off with a bunch of hungover college students in Vermont who didn't want to play bocce again. That's how the sport started. So I mean, you started playing for the exact same reason that everybody.
It was just like The nice thing about in college is that you can just like go do things.
Right.
And people will show up. Like
And
so it was associated mostly because we were doing was it it's like the Alliance
oh, the
where
Harry
you like are
Potter.
doing like yes. And so we were doing that and then it was just like, well, we'll also do this. We didn't actually do anything with the Quidditch thing. We had it, but we mostly were just doing like more of the Harry Potter Alliance stuff.
So yeah, it was interesting. Like I was in the group that shall not be named. It's the largest Harry Potter fan club in the world, and there are a bunch of generally not athletic Harry Potter fans who had a monthly Quidditch meetup just so that they could get them active. That was their goal. And then the Quidditch
Yeah.
World Cup happened in New York City, and I'm like, "Where's the team?" And they're like, "There is no team." And I'm like, "I'm starting a team." So I pulled a bunch of Harry Potter nerds out of like this fan club and got them ready for Quidditch World Cup 4, and we had a blast. And then I played for a
Yeah.
couple years.
This is really like lowering my cool points. Not that I had any to start with. Being like, yes, I was on a Quidditch team in
Oh, no,
college.
no, it is one of my high points in my life. Like because
Yeah,
of
it's
because of my proximity to New York City and the origins of the sport and everything like that.
mm,
I've been on American television, Japanese television, like for like playing Quidditch. Like I'm like,
yeah.
who's cool with me? Like I'm like so
Yeah. You gotta embrace it. Gotta embrace being a dweeb sometimes. It's great. I love
exactly.
it. I love being a nerd.
No, that's the thing though, is like a lot of people don't realize that personal trainers are just nerds about fitness.
But yeah, we're just strength nerds. That's what I was telling my friend yesterday, and I was telling him about when because he's coming on, and I was like, he's saying he was nervous, and I was like, it's just two nerds talking about strength and like a weird niche thing that we're excited about. That's all the
Yeah,
podcast is. And that's all I want to do. That's like why I started a podcast. Was like I just want to talk about strength with people who are also excited about strength in
right.
whatever field they are. I love like an ironic excitedness about a thing, whatever
Right.
it is, makes
Well,
me happy.
and that's the thing about podcasts. The reason podcasts work is you're always sitting there listening to the podcast going, I could be in a room with these people and having this conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why they work. Like it's not anything. Like if it were anything different, it would just be a radio show. And everybody's
Yeah.
listening to NPR when it's not good. Like podcasts, on the other hand, are like I listen to the NPR politics podcast. I honestly feel like I could sit in a room with like anybody in that thing and just talk politics. It's like it's the same
Mm-hmm.
thing here. It's like two people or three people or how many people are doing it, talking about something that they're passionate about, that anybody listening to it also could be in that room and have that same discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. It's the coolest. Are you so you've done like ultra marathons and things? Are you working towards anything specific with your strength right now, or is there any like
So,
big overarching goals?
so I've always trained myself to be like to be able to pivot my training based on what I want to do. Right now, I'm playing rugby, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
on an active rugby team. So that's what
Cool.
I'm really focused on. Like I started my season last night. And it's just about staying in shape for rugby, dealing with the fact that I am going to be 48 and still playing club rugby at the club rugby level as opposed to doing old boys rugby. So it's like, that's my main focus. It's like keeping my body healthy, keeping myself competitive so that I can play with these guys who are often, I mean, not so much. It's not like when I was doing Quidditch and like the average player was like 10 to 15 years younger than me because I started playing. I started the team at like 34, and like it's primarily a college sport then, but it was like, it was like I'm sitting there and it's like I'm 47, I'll be 48, and like yeah, there are guys in their 40s. There's one guy on my team is in his 50s, but like most of the guys are in their like 20s and 30s, and it's like keeping up with those guys, and that's my main goal. It's like not sucking out there. Considering I started playing the sport at 40.
Yeah.
Like I started
I mean, that's crazy because rugby is like not a joke. Like it's a contact sport.
Yeah. And it's like
Yeah.
it's not it's intense and it's physical, but there's a lot of like, especially now, there's a lot of rules to protect the players,
Mm.
especially, and there's a couple different codes of rugby. I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole different conversation. Um, but there's in rugby union, I'll leave it at that. There's a lot of rules about like keeping players safe, and like they're constantly reinventing the rules so that like when you're doing things, you're considering your safety and the safety of the person that you're interacting with on the other team, because like there's no pads. Like I play with a scrum cap. Like that's about it.
Yeah.
I wear a tiny little thin thing on my head to protect my ears from getting like
The cauliflower.
cauliflower. Yeah. That's about it. Like, I don't wear any other pads. So it's like, it's about like protecting one another. And with that, like there creates a certain amount of respect in the sport too, between teams and players. Like you'll try to tear each other's heads off in the game, but then that you got to go drink with this person. So you can't be too much of a jerk,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the like joy of like team sports is like there is like a very like competitive drive between you and the other team and like within the team even. But like that like camaraderie within the competitiveness is like so wonderful. I really miss doing like competitive like team sports because of that. They're really special. And I do solo competitiveness.
Even in solo competitive sports, yeah, you're competing against yourself, but then if you're doing it right, you're like lifting each other up, because otherwise,
Yes.
Somebody's not going to come back if like, too many people are like terrible,
Yeah, that's the thing, like, because I compete in like kettlebell sport, and it's very much a solo sport. But there's no one ever rooting against you, like on that platform. You might be competing, like I like was on the platform next to a gal in my last comp, and we were against each other in theory, but like that was not the energy in the room. The energy in the room was like, look at us go. Like we're both pushing ourselves at the end of it. Like we hugged each other. Like there was not like there was never like there's a competitiveness. Like obviously we want to push ourselves to be good and like do our best, but also there's never like a I hope you fail, because everyone knows how hard it is. Everyone knows how hard you're working and how tough it is to get yourself like to do a whole training cycle and get yourself on that platform. So everyone wants you to do your best. They don't want to see you fail. They want to see you do what you can do. And that's really special. And even when I was frustrated with like how I did, I was never mad at her. Like I was never mad at the people next to me. I was mad at myself more than anything.
Right.
And that's just because I'm very competitive.
You're competitive with yourself in that instance.
Yeah. I wasn't like oh, I hope she does bad. I was just like, I could have adjusted some things and I could have done better.
Look, if like you don't want that person to fail, because if they fail and you win, it's a hollow win. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to them doing your best and you doing your best and you coming out on top. That's where you wanna. That's where like iron sharpens iron. Like that's where that's gonna. Yeah.
That's. I was talking a couple weeks ago about. We're talking about the Olympics and the weightlifting section of the Olympics, and how a lot of times people will lose their medals like later after like drug testing and things like that. And I just imagine like even if you like a year later after all these drug tests get passed through and you get like, oh, now you have a bronze medal or a silver medal, it's like it doesn't feel good. No. like you're just like, okay, like I guess, but like I didn't change what I did. I did the same thing, but now I've got this medal, even though he lifted more weight than me or she lifted more weight than me. Like, it wouldn't feel as accomplished as like having like lifted more weight than them or whatever.
Sick, I got a medal now. Like,
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Kurt Angle, where are your gold medals? You know, like that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So you've done like ultra running, and you've done rugby. Is there like any like strength sports that you've done? You do like any ollie or powerlifting or anything like that?
haven't mainly because um I'm so focused on team sports
That's
that
great though.
that's where I want to like I want to train for the team sport and stuff like that. But I always do you know Janine Throws on TikTok by any chance? She does Highland Games.
Yes.
Right. Like
Yeah.
we're mutuals and every once in a while like I flirt with the idea of after rugby going into Highland Games. Like that's my like
I'm very tempted by the Highland Games.
yeah, me too.
It looks so fun, and I had a couple people with the juggling stuff that I do message me and be like, "You should do Highland Games because it's throwing
Yeah,
weights
there's
and
that
stuff." And I
one
was
where
like,
they throw
"Oh,
the
yeah,
kettlebell over the bar.
yeah, yeah." I had actually had a client of mine. Oh, we would alternate his training between like power for Highland Games to like endurance power for kettlebell sport, which was a lot of fun, and he was thriving. And I just really want to throw a big stick. I feel like that would be
The, the,
right in my wheelhouse.
the caber toss, the sheep toss. Like I'm like, what would I do with any of those right now? Like, so yeah, that's what I flirt with every time. Though my wife
That's a fun sport. It looks like a lot of fun.
though my wife is like kind of waiting for like the sport thing to end and she's like hoping that I settle down and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna pivot to something else. She's like, why can't
Come
you?
to kettlebell sport. Kettlebell sport has a legends category for when you're like 60 something plus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
My wife did a kettlebell competition at one point, so that was
that's
cool.
great.
Cool to go. She did the snatch. She did the snatch. She did I think she did the clean and jerk. I don't remember exactly what she did. I'll have to ask her, and then I'll message you on
Oh,
that.
yeah.
But she
I
won.
just get excited.
I couldn't. This was a number of years ago. She did one competition, and like she's better now, but she's always had lingering like back issues we both have. And this one, like her back really got wrenched after this, so it took a bit. So she's kind of gun shy about doing it again, though. I wish she would because she kicked ass. Like it was one of my like favorite things to do was just go and cheer her on. So that was fun. She hasn't done something like that since. Her back problems have largely been fixed. Like in our industry, we always have like the expert who knows how to do something,
Mhm.
and like between our physical therapist and the Pilates instructor trainer who is my colleague, like they got her back correct, which was good because
Cool.
yeah, she's always worried about it, and I'm like we'll just get on a call with Becky and Leanne separately and get you right again. Literally,
Yeah.
I mean, I have my team here in North Carolina, but every time if my back goes out, my first call is to my like that physical therapist. I'm like Becky, and literally, but I wish she
Yeah.
would do things like that because she was in her element.
Yeah.
She's a solo sports person minus volleyball. She was like going up against herself. It was really good, and she did well. I mean, there was only like one other person in her division, but she took gold. So I was like,
That's great.
I
Yeah,
got,
that's normal of sport. Is there always like one other person that you're against?
and I'm like, she's like, but there was only one other person, and I'm like, yeah, but you're like Kurt Angle, baby. You can say where are your gold medals, like like that's the, you know,
Yeah, and the thing with sport is like you're it's more than like the like you versus the person is it's you versus you. Because it doesn't really matter what the person next to you is doing because if you get in your own head and get in your own way, it's over.
so
Like
yeah, exactly.
it's so like more than the physical than anything. Like physically, I have struggled with training and like with sets and like there have been physical limitations and that have like stopped sets for me. But it's what I see most often is mental, is people stopping because their brain tells them to versus their body telling them to. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great sport though. Everyone should try it at least like a little bit.
You know what? Maybe on the interlude before the Highland Games, maybe I need to make that a stopover.
To get the power, you know, that explosive power that you get from sport. Because
Exactly.
my client who did it he did a lot of long cycle and jerks to like really get that explosive power. So when he did whatever explosive throws, it would translate really well for him.
That works.
Yeah. If it works, it works. And I was like, cool. So we shift to like, you know, from like those like 8-minute sets to like very short but very powerful type sets to to benefit Highland Games. Yeah, I know. Hopefully before my internet decides to crash again, we wanted to talk about like fitness and like social justice and like staying accessible despite like also needing to pay our bills.
The thing I've been struggling with is, you know, like we're mutuals on TikTok, so you see like I do like I'm trying to do more fitness content, and I'm trying to gear it more towards talking about something that's important.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, also like sometimes doing a little bit more informative like fitness content. But I want to talk about like important stuff and meld it with that. And like there's a couple of things with that. One, how to do it like responsibly has been one of my problems. When we talk about like when people talk about obesity, like how that is a huge problem for a lot of people who can't get access to nutritious food, or they're in an area like we, as much as we shouldn't be, our job shouldn't be a luxury item. It is, like we get paid by people who can afford to do it, but there are services needed by everybody. And it's like you said, how do you provide that accessibility knowing that you still have to pay your bills? And then also like, how do you, create create an environment like that's what I've been struggling with the last couple of weeks, in terms of, I want to make a pivot in my content to be more fitness related. I feel like a lot in the beginning of my TikTok days, like a lot of the reason why I didn't do as much fitness content as opposed to the other stuff was I had really crippling imposter syndrome.
I continue to struggle with that all of the time.
Yeah. It's the worst because like my resume, like
you've been in the industry for 20 years, so I also like I feel a little bit better that I'm also struggling. That's like a thing I'm struggling with like all the time, like with like pricing and like and with like putting content out. I'm always like, well, what if somebody tells me I'm wrong? But this is what I know and this is what I do. It's hard.
If somebody tells you you're wrong, that comes from their insecurities, more than anybody else's. But I struggle with that too. Like I said, you're right. I've been in this industry for 20 years. I've been a trainer for 13. I've been working out that entire 20-year period.
Yeah. And so you know things.
Right. And here's the crazy part. If you looked at my personal and professional fitness resume, it's impressive. Like if I move tomorrow to a completely different city and I just put my resume out, I get job offers like this. And when I go to put content online, I am picking myself apart the whole time. And I'm sitting here. I've trained two people. I've trained two people to climb Mount Everest. Okay. I've trained a woman for I've trained two women for a bodybuilding competition. I've trained people for martial arts competitions, just the physical side of everything. I don't do martial arts. That's just not my,
cross training.
Yeah. The cross training side of it. I've trained, one of my favorite client stories is this guy. came to me, he was in his early 50s at the time, had a young daughter. She was like my daughter's age now, 5 or 6, right? And he wanted to lose weight. And we started on that path. He started losing weight. He was an avid swimmer before that. I'm like, why aren't you swimming? Like, you would make my job easier if you went back to swimming. So we started swimming, did the Alcatraz swim from Alcatraz Island to San Francisco, like,
Casual.
and, and then he decided he wanted to do triathlons, like out of nowhere. And like at that particular point in time, I was getting ready to move. And also I wasn't the trainer for him anymore. He had gotten to the point. So I introduced him to another trainer who was a triathlete. And all of a sudden, this dude is taken at 50 years old, taken Rookie of the Year in his in his triathlon league, and he's doing like this, that, and the other thing. And then on top of that, this dude is an opera singer.
What?
Yeah, like he was like so.
That makes sense. The lung capacity to swim and also
right,
and also sing opera. I feel like that.
So he was singing opera, and then he gained the weight, and he stopped doing it as much. And this dude back in his heyday before he gained the weight, met me, and then lost the weight, like sang for Obama and like did all this other stuff, and then he lost the weight, and then he started booking singing gigs again. So he's doing triathlons, and he's doing commercials for the U.S. Open, and I'm like, that's just because we got together. He did all that stuff on his own, but it was like, why'd you stop? Like, why are you not doing this? Like, this is going to make my job easier. And on top of that, this is your life.
Make your life better.
Like, I know that you came to me because you wanted to be alive for your daughter, but it would be much better for your daughter to see you live. And like, he got into that, and it's just like one of those things that makes me that's one of the things that makes me kind of like get up in the morning, like clients like that. And I mean just as much as that is the type of client that gets me up in the morning, the 70-year-old grandmother that I got who wanted to get on the floor for her grandkids, like that's the other one. Like those are the clients that like get it going. But I like recognize there's so much more need for us to do what we do, and it's like making sure we're whole financially, making sure we're putting out positive messaging, and then it's a lot. That's something I've been struggling with. And when you ask me like what I wanted to talk about, I'm like, that's pretty much like what I've been struggling with. So
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to be like, this is like a luxury. Like, we provide a luxury service very much, but also it's a luxury that like everyone should have access to.
exactly.
So it's really hard to be like, when you're figuring out how to price and all of these things, is like, I want it to be accessible, but also I need to be able to, pay my student loans and buy groceries. So
Right.
those are both important things. And I've been doing a lot of work. I've been like reading, doing courses, and it's like, I mean, I deserve to pay my bills.
Right.
Like, I do. Like I get to pay my bills through my work because I do good work. I do good work, but I think I put out a lot of free stuff as well that I think is helpful and makes training more accessible through like my Instagram and my YouTube and TikTok. So hopefully, and also I have like a lot of lower priced options for people. So if they do need help, they can have it. And that's how I've been like balancing this as I'm like pushing myself forward in my business. I think I'm putting out a lot of value with no cost to a lot of people, to everyone. So the people who can pay and will pay and will show up, they get obviously like a lot for those costs. They get a lot of value. But I put out a lot of free content. Like I've been posting. I mean, there was one point where I was posting twice a day, every single day.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So like I'm not doing that anymore, and I've shifted it to a lot less time. That was when it was really easy to make content. When you just did a lip sync, that was the best. I loved that time.
Oh,
Um
lip syncing, that's like some of my favorite things.
I miss lip sync content so much. It was so easy to make little jokes, and then, then I'd put my other stuff out that was a little bit more
Yeah.
effort based. But being able to record like 3 weeks worth of content in like 2 hours was the best. I can't do that anymore though, because that's not the sort of content that people absorb anymore. But I think that like putting out a lot of value and a lot of stuff that is helpful, like,
Yeah.
and I think that's also going to help you find your people as well, like find clients as well, because uh there's the more people see you, the more people interact and like your stuff, the more people will be like, maybe I will give the money to
Yeah.
this person.
Actually, one client that I got off of TikTok,
Yeah.
and he's like, like when in terms of like when like if you go to interview at a job at a gym, they ask you what your niche is, so they can
Mhm.
help you find people. And I always tell them the same thing. I'm like, women who want to get really, really strong, or dudes my age who want to talk about nerdy stuff and get really, really strong,
Perfect.
or women who want to talk about nerdy stuff and get really, really strong. It's all there, but usually sometimes like they put me with somebody who just wants to get really, really strong and doesn't know, what like is going on television. And
It's like I need to be able to make my pop culture references. I need to make my Lord of the Rings references, and I need you to understand them also.
exactly. So
Let's talk about Baldur's Gate, and I need you to understand my talking about Gale. Like, this is really important to me as part of
that gets me through the session too. Like
let's discuss our plan and how we're gonna fight the Thorms.
exactly. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm always like struggling with like messaging and like making sure that I'm putting out like consistent, good messaging that's consistent. And, like when I talk about social justice, it's like, talking about, people eating properly, like not everybody has that access, and like,
Mhm.
it's easy to talk about that stuff. There was that
Also,
video.
like, the time to do training as
Right,
well.
exactly. There's
You
that
don't
there
have the same 24 hours. My 24 hours are a lot easier to get training in than the average person.
that stupid saying irritates the dog piss out of me, because it's like people are like, oh, you got the same 24 hours. No, you don't. No, you don't. Your
Wow.
24 hours and my 24 hours are very different. Like, I don't, do you have kids? I think you,
No.
okay. Okay. So
I
like,
have a dog, and she's neurotic, and she does take a lot of work, but not as much work
yeah,
as a human
dogs are a lot of,
child.
so, so like, I have, I have, I have a 6 year old, a 1 year old. I have two dogs, a cat, and then, my house. And it's like, it's a very different experience. In order for me to get the workout in that I wanted to today, I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do half of it. Like, and then the other half I did later.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. And then and your job is still like coaching. So
right,
like on in my worst case scenario, if I have to break my workout up between meetings or like coaching calls, I can still get my workout in because I'm
right,
still going to be in like workout gear, and like it's not going to be a problem for me to get in 5 sets of presses real quick, Might not be like optimal, but I can still get my
right,
training in versus like a lady who is working a job and then also has to pick up her kids and then also has to walk her dog and also has to cook
right.
dinner. What
And,
my our time is very different. I am yeah, that's the silliest. It's the silliest thing for people
and,
to
and
be
our
like,
world makes people feel like they're wrong. Like, like if they're like, oh, well, like that. No, no, that is all legitimate reasons for keeping you away from it. Like,
yeah.
what can I do to help you get, X number of minutes for yourself? How can I help somebody with that? You know,
Yeah. I think, and that's like another thing I think that's really like when I do coaching and like when I do like intake and stuff is like how much time can you do? Like that is going to make a difference on how long our workouts are, because if I set you a workout that's over an hour but you don't have over an hour to
right,
dedicate, you're not going to be successful and you're going to feel bad about it. Let's set you up for success in a way where you're like, okay,
Right.
I know I can do 30 minutes. It's like, great, let's make this happen in 30 minutes. Because
it's
not
like
everyone has that much time.
like they'll be like, how much time can you give? How much time can you give me in terms of like setting a time with me? But how much time can you give yourself? And then it's like, I don't know. And I'm like, just, like you have to put some time in there, but just give me, or like, I can get you a good workout. Like there's workouts people do in like 7 to 10 minutes. And if I can get you that once a day, we win. I have a client right now, and like you were talking about alternative like options, she literally pays me monthly to meet with her, set her up with a workout, and then just let her go. And we are on the phone for 10 minutes. And then she does the rest on her own. And it's just because she wants that accountability, but she also wants to work out by herself. And I'm like, it's all about what's going to work for you. And once we figure that out, we can set you running, and it's just a matter of like getting in the door,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I think it's all like, and that's really where the benefit of like being able to get a coach is so helpful. Is just like,
yeah,
what do you have? What can we do? And how do we make it work for you? And when
yeah,
things get thrown up in the air, like being like, everything's messed up, I can't do, like, I just had the client message me while we were having that technical issue, and she's like, there's no way I'm going to get this training done today. What do I do? And I was like, very easily, let me, I'll modify that for you. Like that's easy, no problem.
Have you ever read Dan John's Intervention?
No.
So he talks about, like, I tell my clients this when they run into situations like that. He talks about it like thinking about it like in terms of traffic. If everything's green, go. Just go.
Yeah.
And then yellow, things start getting thrown up. You got to kind of like put things there. And then when it's red and it needs to stop, don't feel bad for stopping, because that's going to set your, whatever. And that made absolute sense to me. And I always tell my clients that. I'm like, look, life's going to come at you like a bunch of different ways. Don't feel bad if like things have stopped you. I'm going to be here at the end of it. Like, when you all go, I'm going to be sitting next to you in the car. Like,
Yeah. And I think the other thing with training too is like, we're training so your life is better.
Right.
We're not making training your life.
Right. That's
very few people is like their whole life is training. Like obviously, like for us, it's a little bit more like that. But even then, like my own personal workouts, less than an hour most days.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend my whole entire day doing training. I want to be able to do my stuff and then like do my work and then like play video games or watch a movie or bake a cake. My life isn't. Yeah.
Right now, the only reason why my training is over an hour. I decided to do 75 hard. I hit a roadblock, and I'm like, I'm gonna break through this, even though I told you could just stop. So I decided to do 75 hard to do it. So now I got to work out for 2 45-minute sessions a day, but I have the ability to do it. Yeah, no, you're right. Otherwise, 30 minutes, 45 minutes tops.
Yeah, most of the time. I mean, and like I do have some workouts that are longer. Like my bent press workouts are a lot of resting between sets. So that workout takes almost 2 hours. But that's one of my workouts. Most of them are shorter and they just are functional for my day, so I can get stuff done and then move on. Because I don't want to spend. I like working out and I like feeling strong, but I don't want to spend my entire day lifting.
No.
I just don't have. I have other things I want to do. I want to go for a really long walk. I want to go look at the lake. I want to watch a movie.
You can't,
I like doing other things also. Yeah, but I think a lot of times when people see coaches, they think that we're gonna be like, okay, this is what I do, so this is what you do, and I was like, none of my people do any of the things that I do.
I don't want you to do the things that I do. I want you to.
I do insane things, and I'm aware of that. I'm not going to make someone else do that. No one else is doing a 5x5 bent press. Well, why would they do that?
Exactly. No, it's funny because they'll I'll put stuff up and they're like, I can never do that. I'm like, you could,
Good.
You're watching me do a sped up version of the video. You didn't get to see all the suck, like, and
I laid on the ground for a while. I procrastinated starting. Like there's a lot of other things happening
right,
in
exactly.
between.
And I tell it, it's like, I don't care what you do as long as you're doing something. And it's like I went for a walk today. You won. You,
Great.
you won.
Something better than nothing. That's
Yeah,
it.
a little bit better, and that's my favorite. That's like trying to get people to get their head around that, because our industry is terrible for that. Like, like
Hmm.
unless you're like that, we convince people unless they're dying, like they're near death,
Oh no.
push themselves to like this point where they're throwing up. They haven't done enough, and I'm like, no, it's the exact opposite.
No, you should feel good at the end of your
Right,
workouts. Like I like almost every single workout I do, and there are some that don't feel good, but that's part of it. But most workouts at the end of it, I'm like, I feel better. I feel good. I move my body. My body feels good. And that's what you should feel like. And also like you shouldn't be like going balls to the wall hard every single session because your body will hate you and you will burn out.
right,
Especially as we age because I'm, in my 30s and the things that I did when I was 23, 25 are not the things that I could do now. They are different.
nope,
Um and so like learning and adapting to that and feeling good like there's no reason to be doing, 90-95% of your max every single week. That's bad. It's not good for your body for recovery versus like, doing a lot like hanging out in that 70% range. It's nice, it's doable, you feel strong, you're building muscle.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you don't need to go so hard all the time. You got to be able to recover.
And also, like, again, like we keep telling people this is so that you can live your life.
Mhm.
There's very few instances where you are going to have to do that, but being able to, like somebody's like, I want to go out and dance all night, and I'm like, we can do that. We can train that. So
Yeah.
you're tired. You're not destroyed next day.
Mhm. So your
That's
body feels solid.
yeah,
That's yeah. That's a very legitimate training goal.
yeah,
I mean,
like
I love that.
yeah. Or I want to be like right now. So I have a lot of friends who are Ren Fair nerds, and a lot of my clients are like friends that I've had for decades, and they're in Ren Fair season, and they're like, we've been training, and now we don't feel as destroyed as we used to, and I'm like, I know. I considered that when we started training. Like
That's
there,
what we do.
there was a period of time a couple weeks before you went to fair season where I changed things up on you. I didn't tell you I did it. I
Yeah.
just did it because I knew it was going to go on over the next couple of weeks, and you needed to be ready for it.
Yeah. That's the gig.
That's why you
Yeah.
pay. Like
Yes. Yep. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun job. It's
I
really
love
cool.
it.
It's a really cool job. Well, I know we've been chatting for a while now. So where can people find you? How can people work with you? Do you do online? Tell
So
me all the things.
I do online. I got it. So I'm such a slacker with online stuff. The easiest way to find me is on one of my socials, either like TikTok, which is at Killer Cadogan, and same thing for Instagram. Those would be the easiest. I have a website. My company's technical name is FITT Academy with Jared. FIT stands for Fun, Inclusive, Transformative Training. And it's like I have a website for that, but I've done nothing with it because I one of the things that I'm trying to get better at is like getting more consistent with content creation. And I got
Mhm.
to get on there and like vamp it up. Like I love the message that I have on that site, but I don't have anything else on there. So I got to get on there and do that.
Build.
But it's the easiest way to be finding me on one of those two platforms, TikTok or Instagram, and just shooting me a DM because I'm very big on helping people out.
Yeah.
And
Love it.
the I'm trying to think of any other way to get hold of me. No, those are the main two. Um,
Perfect.
yeah.
Make sure you're following Jared on all of the things. I'll have everything linked in the show notes. And thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate
I,
it.
I just, like I said, I was looking forward to this because I've been following and we've been mutuals on TikTok for a while, and
Yeah.
I always, like, loved and respected your content. So it was like just to talk to somebody that I really enjoy watching their stuff. It was an honor on my end. So thank you.
That's so nice. That's so nice. Thank you so much to Jared for coming onto the podcast. I had such a great time getting to chat with him. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. Make sure you're following him on all of the things. All of his socials and things are linked in the show notes. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. That helps more people to find the podcast and lets me know how you're liking the podcast. If you haven't, get your hands on my free mindset guide. It is a really in-depth look at how I coach mindset, and I think it's really good. I put a lot of work into it, and I think it's genuinely going to help a lot of people. So if that's something you struggle with, definitely click that link. And that's all I have for right now. More things are coming, more guests are coming, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.